All right, so it's the first week of April in Wyoming, and winter is back. Kind of a late start this morning, getting out of bed because it was cold and damp. So let's go take a look at what it looks like outside right now. All right, the camera adjusts here. That is snow out there. Is it crazy or what? It's April. All right, so again, like I said, first week of April, it's been fairly mild. All of a sudden, this comes back. Last night, temperature down to 10 degrees, started snowing last night, snowed all night. We're getting like 6 inches or so of snow out of this storm. Temperature tonight, they're saying like 1 or 2 degrees above zero. Kind of ridiculous, but you know, that's what we're facing up here. Water line froze up again last night. Never had a problem with it until I came to Wyoming. I've had this van for be a year next month, and the only time I've had a trouble was when I came to Wyoming. I guess this spring. First night in Wyoming, stayed in a rest area in southwest Wyoming. Water line froze up. Came back did the trip out to New York. Came back, it was froze up again. But it's been all right since then. It's been milder, and not always nice at night. Sometimes it's been in the 20s at night, but my water hasn't froze up again. Well, I woke up again this morning to the lines frozen up pretty hard, so I'm sure it'll freeze again tomorrow. So that was a challenge making coffee. I had to disconnect the line and tip the big tank over to pour it into the kettle, and lo and behold, there's plenty of sludge and ice floating in the big tank too, so it got pretty cold in here last night. All right, so since it's really cold, let's talk heat a little bit in vans. Now, do you strictly have to have heat? No. I've lived in a van at 10 degree lows before and survived to tell the story. It wasn't fun, but I survived to tell the story. So you can get by without it. I've camped in tents in the teens. You can do that with the right gear. It's not fun. You're going to spend a lot of time bundled up in bed. And in the wintertime, that might mean 16, 18, 20 hours a day. You're bundled up in your sleeping bag or your blankets trying to stay warm. So I don't really recommend that. I recommend having some kind of heat if you're going to be in winter areas. And even if you're going to be in the desert in the winter, you're probably going to want some heat because it can get down into the 20s occasionally at night down to the desert, and that's at the low elevations, so you're going to want to be able to take the edge off in the evening, and in all probability. So what I got right now, and this is the heater that I cannot recommend to you. This is the Mr. Heater Little Buddy. There are some things I don't care for about this thing, and I'm going to tell you why I don't like them, but this may still work okay for you. I'll tell you also what I do recommend after we talk briefly about this thing. I had a Mr. Heater Portable Buddy, and it conked out, so I ended up buying this thing. I thought, it was a few dollars cheaper, and I thought it would work right for a van, and I really don't like it. So I should have stuck with the Portable Buddy, I guess. Thing about the Mr. Heaters, they're kind of notorious for conking out and not lasting a long time. I don't know what all that's about. Part of it is dust. If you keep them covered, keep a plastic bag or something over them, they will last longer than if you don't do that. And if you're traveling in a van or an RV, you're often going to be in dusty places. If you fall into weather, you might be in the forests in the summer, which can be surprisingly dusty, and the desert in the winter is definitely dusty as well. Another thing that my guess is that they get bounced around a lot driving, and I think they're designed for use in like tents and garages and sheds and stuff. They're not really designed to be used in motor vehicles, from what I understand. So that may be a factor for why they don't always hold up as long as we might like. But you still got to have heat, and this is kind of your entry-level solution in terms of cost if you're looking at heat in a van. All right. That demonstrates the first thing I really don't like about this. It's got this little plastic disc that it's supposed to sit on, okay? This is their solution for a base, is this little plastic disc. Some propane tanks, this uses the green bottles. Some fit in here better than others. These are not fitting very good. So when it happens, it's prone to tip over. And that's kind of an obvious, huge safety concern. These things are top heavy, and not only are they top heavy, the balance is off because of the design. So, and this thing has an open flame in there, and this head gets very hot. Now, it does have a tip over safety sensor. I don't want to trust my life to it, but it does have one, and it does seem to work. But when this thing tips over, if it's been running, even if it turns off the heater, it's still very, very hot. It could burn your floor. It could light something on fire if it lands on something flammable. So be aware of that. I do not like that. Yes, you could modify this, or you could create your own thing that might work better, but my solution is going to be I'm just going to upgrade. And some of you may be wondering, why am I complaining about this thing? Why don't I do something different? Because I thought the winter heating season was over, and I have several things in mind I'm considering for next heating season. I thought I was done with this foolishness, but the weather has not cooperated because I got stuck in Wyoming because of the pandemic shutdown, just like a lot of you are stuck places. I'm stuck in Wyoming right now, so that was not planned. So, and I don't want to spend on a new heater right now this time of year with all the financial concerns that many people are dealing with, myself included, and you know, it really, even up here, it's going to be almost the end of the heating season, so I don't want to deal with that right now. Very basic operation, has an on button and an off button. That's it. There are no temperature controls. It's on or it's off, and that's another thing I don't really care for about this. I used to say the portable buddy was often too hot. This thing is either too hot or not hot enough. It's a little bit less powerful than the portable buddy, but it does not have high and low. It just has on and off. And so if you're just trying to take the edge off, you turn this thing on for a couple minutes, and then you got to turn it off again, and then you got to turn it back on again and off again. You know, and then the portable buddy, you have a little more flexibility there, but you also can leave the pilot light on, so you don't have to deal with that every time. You can at least toggle the heater itself on and off while leaving the pilot going. You can't do that with this one. It's a little bit more of a pain to relight every time. The electric automatic ignition failed, I don't know, within a month of getting it. So again, speaking of the quality, these things just sometimes isn't there. It just doesn't light, and so I have to use a lighter to light the darn thing. So I have to get that going, and then, you know, hold it in there and click the red button and hold it while it gets going. And if you have to turn it on and off a bunch of times in an hour because it's too hot or too not hot enough, that's kind of a pain. All right, now the thing that's really annoying about this is just the design of it. You see, it points up in the air, and heat rises. We all know that from elementary science class, right? Heat rises, the van gets really, really hot up top, really, really cold on the bottom. So I can be like suffocating from 3 feet above the ground up, and my feet still feel like they're sitting in blocks of ice. And this does nothing to help that by pointing the heat coming off of it up into the air. The Mr. Heater Portable Buddy, the other model, you can actually put your feet in front. It shoots the heat straight out, where it then, you know, does this thing of floating upwards. But you can at least put your feet in front of it and warm your feet up. So that's kind of nice. I like that better. So I just don't love this thing. Your mileage may vary on this. Maybe it'll work all right for you. To my mind, most people would be better served by the Portable Buddy. The only time I can really see this being an advantage is if the vehicle setup you're in, you have to do something like this because of clearances. You just couldn't safely use the Portable Buddy because you have too much stuff in there. You do have to maintain good ventilation, and you do have to maintain good, safe clearances around any of these heaters. And, you know, the ventilation, I leave my front windows cracked. I have rain visors on. I just leave the windows cracked a little bit to make sure I'm getting good airflow. I do have a carbon monoxide alarm, and I've seen people say these things don't put out any carbon monoxide at all. All I can tell you is that I did a test once to see, left the window shut, turned the heater on, and after about a half an hour, 20-30 minutes, my carbon monoxide alarm started going nuts. Now, I don't know, it doesn't have a level indicator, so I don't know how high it was, but it did start going off, so I opened the windows up, and that was a test. I did that on purpose during the day when I was up. I just wanted to see how clean it burned, and if it would trip the alarm if I did not open the windows. So I always have the windows open or the roof vent, so I get some air exchange going. So you do have to have some ventilation. You do have to have clearances. That might be one time where this thing comes in. If you have to have a certain number of inches above and to the sides and in front of it, and maybe if you're in a smaller vehicle, your furniture and design is tighter than mine, you couldn't accommodate that, and this might allow you to accommodate it because it aims up into the air. So other than that, I just recommend you go with the Mr. Heater Portable Buddy rather than the Little Buddy for most people. But like I said, maybe this would work right for you. I prefer the other features on the other one. There is a Mr. Heater Big Buddy that takes 2 green tanks, or again, you connect it to a hose. And if you are using the hose with a Mr. Heater on like the Portable Buddy or the Big Buddy, you do have to use the hose that comes from Mr. Heater. Any of the other brands may gunk up the jets on the propane jets and take out your heater, so it doesn't work any longer. So I recommend using their hose and their filter to make sure that it's going to last as long as possible. And again, any of them, keep them covered with plastic or a sheet or something when your pillowcase, whatever, when you're not using them, keep the dust out of here, as that seems to be help make them last longer as well. If you got a little more budget, like I said, this thing's about $69 at my Walmart, $79 for the Portable Buddy, and then you're going to spend another $20 or $25 if you want the hose and filter for it. So you're around $100. You're into that. If you got a little more money, you can look at the Olympian Wave series of heaters. Those are very well regarded. I've never heard anybody say a bad thing about them that has used them, so you might look at those. All right, so one more thing about cold weather. Things like butane lighters tend to not want to light when it gets really cold, below freezing. So unless you want to keep your lighter and your butane canisters, if you're using a butane stove in your sleeping bag with you, that's going to be a challenge come morning. So like this heater I got, the ignition's not working, so I got to light it. There it goes. Okay, so I got to light it using a lighter. So if this thing's cold below freezing, this isn't going to light. And same thing with my butane stove. It just isn't going to light in the morning, so I'm not going to be able to make coffee that way, even if my water's not frozen. Of course, it doesn't matter right now because I've run out of butane, because people are hoarding butane in addition to propane and toilet paper and paper towels and hand sanitizer and all kinds of other things. So I haven't been able to get butane for weeks. So something to keep in mind, lighters do not like to work. Butane stoves do not like to light when it's below freezing. You can get a butane a mix, an isobutane mix that will light a little bit colder, but eventually it's not going to light. Propane will do that too, but it's like sub-zero, so it's not a problem. You'll freeze up your lines. But I recommend carrying some wooden matches. This is a big box. You don't need 250 necessarily. This is all I could find when I was looking for them. But, you know, being able to strike one of these when your lighter won't light allows you to light your stove or your heater that won't go maybe. So, you know, and besides that, it's just such a satisfying sound, right? I mean, who doesn't love the sound of a wooden match striking? So I always carry the wooden matches because you just never know when it's going to get cold. You cold snap and stuff won't light. So there you go. So good idea to have some matches in addition to your lighter. All right, so you know, sometimes cold snaps happen. They're expected up here in Wyoming, but they can even happen down in the desert during the winter months. So just a good idea to be prepared. And it's a good idea to have some kind of heat source if you're traveling by vehicle. If you are plugging in a lot, you may be able to get by with a small electric heater that'll hold you over. And that's could be an affordable way to go. But otherwise, you know, if you have to use a heater like this, a propane heater, make sure you got something that's going to work. Make sure you have adequate ventilation and adequate clearance around it, and make sure you got fuel on hand. I went to the store yesterday and stocked up on propane to make sure I have enough to get me through this 2 nights and 2.5, 3 days of really cold weather. So if that helps, you can take some tips from my misery here in Wyoming. It's supposed to be spring, but yeah, the memo didn't arrive here to Wyoming. But that's Wyoming. I mean, I think they have about 3 days that are really nice every year, and the other 362 or 363 this year with a leap year are too hot or too cold or too windy or whatever. But there you go. So anyway, hope you enjoyed these little tips based on my experiences, and we'll catch you in the next video, everybody.